on this role, and you received some kind of backlash or criticism when you initially did that. Talk about that experience, because you've written about this, and how did you sort of like get over that?
Well, listen, the reality is for the first couple of seasons, Wesley Crusher was not an especially well-written character. The writers didn't really know what to do with him. They didn't know, nobody knew how to take this idea and make it a person. And I did the very best that I could with that. And it's rare, I don't know what it's like today, but it was rare back then for a person to watch a show and say, you know, I don't like the writing of this character, but I'm sure the actor's a fine fellow. Just be like, I hate that character and I hate you. And I mean, I get it. There's shows that my wife and I love, and then we're like, oh, now they're putting a baby in the show. Great. Super. I was in Australia, and I was at a con with Chandler Riggs, who plays Carl on The Walking Dead. And he is one of the nicest kids in the world. And I actually think Carl is a great character on that show. And I know that a lot of people have given him a really hard time about it, right? And it's not his fault that his mom never knows where the fuck he is. So I felt kind of protective of him, because I was like, oh look, you're carrying the Wesley torch. We made a video together where I'm just yelling at him to get back in the house. It's really funny. I'll put it on YouTube this coming week. He had a great sense of humor about it, but the way that I ultimately had to sort of, it took me until I was in my mid-20s and I wrote the book Just a Geek for me to like really get okay with it, because I would like to believe that it's possible to just say, no, I'm proud of the work, and it was great, and I loved it, and you know, and it paid for my house, and it was wonderful. But the truth is, it hurts. It hurts a lot when I don't know. Pick the thing that you do. That if there are any artists in the room, if you spend a lot of time putting your heart and soul into an artistic work, and someone just not, you know, it's not enough that someone says, I don't like that. It's, I don't like that, and here are all the reasons why I don't like that. I'm going to repeat them every day. It sucks. And it sucks, and it hurts, and it's very, very hard to get.
And those voices are just a lot louder, unfortunately, because I know for me, and I'm sure there's people out there like that, you were the reason why I started watching.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I've absolutely, thank you. That's awesome. That's good. I love it. And it's the thing that I've heard a lot. The thing is, like, I didn't know. I turned 40 this year, and I'm running into 1972 for the win. I've been running into people that are my age, plus or minus like 5 years, and they grew up watching Next Generation, and they thought Wesley was awesome. They loved him, and then they identified with him, and they thought that I meet people now who are scientists and engineers and physicists and doctors and architects, and they do what they do because they watched Star Trek with their parents, and because they thought Wesley was really cool, that he was as smart as the adults, that he could do all these things. So when I hear that, I think, well, maybe this character could have been written in a way that would have made him appeal to a broader audience, but he was certainly speaking to kids who were my age at the time. And I run into people all the time who tell me that they didn't have anything in common with their parents except Star Trek. And Star Trek was that thing that they did together. And as they grew older, most of us as we grow older, even if we have trouble with our parents, we sort of grow together eventually in time, right? And people have told me, I'm so glad that we had Star Trek, because it gave us at least a foundation to stand on, to build the relationship that we have as mutual adults. And now I watch Next Gen. These people tell me I watch Next Generation with my children, and that's amazing. It's so great to be part of that, hearing things like that, kids, cover your ears. I've just run out of fucks to give. Not people who are like, I hate Wesley. Like, well, you know what? Congratulations.
I want to open it up to the floor. It's hard to see a little bit shirt first, yes.
That's hilarious. The red shirt always goes first. Thanks. For those of you who couldn't hear his question, he wanted to know about Leverage and the character Chaos I play on Leverage. I love being that guy. He's so much fun to play, and that cast, I've been really lucky. The cast of Next Generation was amazing, and 25 years later, we all love each other. And Leverage is going to be the exact same way. Those guys will work for 12 hours and then go have dinner together, and they're great. The cast of Eureka is the same way, and I'm really grateful that I got to be on location with two casts that were like the cast I grew up with. And I don't know if Chaos will be in this season of Leverage. If they ask me, I'm going to say yes. It's weird because I'm super good friends with John Rogers, who's the showrunner and EP on the show, and I feel like it way crosses a line if I'm like, so Rogers, by the way, as we're here playing Dungeons and Dragons at my house, so what, giving me a job or what? What's going on? How's that happening? Oh, and by the way, roll for initiative. I mean, I don't know how to do that. My favorite StarCraft race to play is Zerg. Yeah, boo yourself. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't defend against the Zerg rush. Cry me a river. But I haven't played StarCraft 2. I haven't had time, which is awkward because I'm real good friends with Sean Plott, who's known as Day 9. Day 9 came and played on my show Tabletop. And I was like, I had never met him, but Felicia kept saying, "You're gonna like Sean. He's a great guy. Like, you guys are gonna be best friends." And I was like, whatever. You're not the boss of me. And oh my God, she was right. After like a half an hour, I was like, dude, we have got to be best friends. So here's my phone number. I want you to come over to my house, and we're gonna have dinner, and we're gonna have beer, and we're gonna play board games together, and we're gonna write about it in our diaries. He's amazing. So yeah, I'm looking forward. But I tell you what, I'm really looking forward to more than anything else is Diablo 3. Oh my God.
Should we go over to Isle? Yes, that.
So fandom has changed a lot since Next Generation was around originally, and especially because of, obviously, the internet. Pretty much happened in the internet. And I know in the beginning there was some sort of fandom activity on the early web, but how do you think things would be different if Star Trek: The Next Generation had happened in the internet age?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I mean, maybe I can talk it out. We've seen how it's not just the internet, right? I mean, you know, the internet is a technology, but the internet is a lot of different things. I think the way that I would like to believe that Star Trek and the people behind Star Trek would embrace the internet and make it really easy for people to watch our show online, wherever, whenever they wanted to. I would like to believe that we would respond well to social media. That one of the rules on Leverage is Twitter everything, and that's because Rogers gets it and understands all that. But when I work in the Big Bang Theory, unless I'm getting permission directly from Bill Brady, I've got to run everything I do past Warner Brothers. I had this great idea, if I say so myself, a couple of maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, to just take my flip camera around the stage and just host a tour of the stage. And I wouldn't do it when we were rehearsing. I wouldn't do it when we were rolling. I wouldn't put any people on it. I would just say, look, this is what the stage looks like. And this is kind of what, these are some things in the apartment, and this is what it actually looks like in the comic shop. I'm a comic book nerd, and they use books as set dressing in the comic book shop that I would die to have. They don't care. They don't care about it at all. Oh, it's a hardback killing joke. Yeah, it's just gonna sit here and just, you know, it's on the stage. What's that? I mean, if they have every DC archival edition of it, they pick your favorite costume hero, and they're there. So I really wanted to do this, and I asked Brady. He was like, "That's awesome. Yeah, you should totally do that." And somehow word of that got to Warner Brothers, and Warner was like, "Okay, but here's all this stupid dance you have to do for it to happen." And I was like, "Fine, I'll do your stupid dance because it's a great idea." And by the time it went through all of their stupid little protocol things, it was we couldn't, like, we were out of time. We were taping the show, and I said, I should have just done it, and then just just beg for forgiveness,
Yeah.
right? So I hope that we would that Trek would have been more like the originals, like, you know, less like a big studio show. But I really don't know. I mean, the internet was just different back then. Instead of, you know, you had Usenet instead of social media, and you had bulletin board systems instead of Twitter. So who knows? I guess like we wouldn't have been the only people to see all the inside jokes we put up on all the graphics all over the place, because those are would have been irresistible to send pictures of those out.
I'm going to move over to this side, the white shirt.
Yes, Will, I understand you're making some beer with the kid. That sounds like so much fun. It sounds cool. Are you still thinking of expanding it and distributing it? Because I know I'd love to have Wil Wheaton porter or stout.
So yeah, that's true. My son Ryan was home from college last summer, and he and I were looking for a father-son activity to do. And I can hear the murmurs going through the audience. Yes, my son is 22, and my younger son is 20. I didn't make them, but I've raised them since they were 3 and 5. And thanks. Ryan said, he said, I think we should have a father-son activity for Summer Long Home. And I said, great, what do you want to do? And he said, let's make beer. And I said, that's a fantastic idea. And we found a homebrew supply store, and we went there, and we started making beer. And I've made like 23 batches of beer since then. Like, I just fell in love with it. I completely fell in love with it. And I homebrew almost every week. And I do all grain, and I do extract, and I'm a super nerd about it. And actually, my dream, to answer your question directly, my dream is to have a brew pub with maybe 3 styles of beer on draft that we would make there. And but instead of being just a brew pub, it's a brew pub with an 80s arcade in it. Yeah. So it's sort of like Ground Control in Portland, but it would be a brew pub where I would make things. And actually, one of the best benefits of being a home brewer is that I've tried these styles of beer that I normally just kind of didn't like. I mean, I'm an IPA guy, and I like IPAs and stouts and porters and triples and just like really big, aggressive, interesting beers. And I don't like lagers, I don't like pilsners, and I especially hate wheat beers, which is a bummer because it's right in my name and everything, right? But I had a home-brewed wheat beer that was phenomenal, and I realized that I just hadn't had a good wheat beer, right? So actually the next beer I'm making is going to be called Wheaton Weizen. How easy is it for me to change characters, and what kind of advice would I give someone like you who is in a play in high school?